This story happened in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on December 5, 1945. The afternoon began under routine conditions at Naval Air Station Fort Lauderdale. At 1:45 p.m., 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers prepared for a scheduled training mission over the Atlantic. The flight was designated as Flight 19. The exercise was a standard navigational problem known as Navigation Problem Number 1, a triangular course that took the planes east over the ocean, north for a measured leg, and then southwest back to base. The weather briefing indicated mild seas and scattered showers. Winds were moderate, but not unusual for the region. Visibility was considered adequate for navigation training. The pilots were student aviators led by an experienced flight instructor, Lieutenant Charles Carroll Taylor. Maintenance logs confirm that all 5 aircraft were inspected prior to departure. Fuel levels were recorded as sufficient for more than 5 hours of flight. At 2:10 p.m., Flight 19 departed in sequence. The first leg of the flight proceeded normally. Bombing practice was conducted over the Hens and Chickens Shoals, east of the Florida coast. At approximately 3:15 p.m., radio transmissions began indicating confusion. Lieutenant Taylor reported that his compasses were malfunctioning. He stated that he could not determine the correct direction of west. Other pilots in the group echoed similar compass irregularities. Radio logs from Fort Lauderdale show increasing uncertainty in the transmissions. Taylor believed the group was over the Florida Keys, which would have placed them southwest of the base. However, navigational tracking suggested they were east of Florida over open ocean. If Taylor's assumption was incorrect, continuing northeast would take the flight farther out into the Atlantic. By 3:45 p.m., ground control instructed the flight to turn due west. The directive was simple: fly west and reach the Florida coastline. The response from the air indicated hesitation. The flight leader insisted that west would take them deeper into the Gulf of Mexico, based on his interpretation of their position. The other pilots, being trainees, followed his heading. At approximately 4:00 p.m., weather reports indicate deteriorating conditions. Scattered showers intensified, and visibility over the Atlantic decreased. Surface vessels later reported choppy seas and intermittent squalls in the region where Flight 19 was believed to be operating. Radio contact became weaker as the afternoon progressed. At 5 p.m., signals were faint and fragmented. One transmission captured by base operators described the ocean appearing unusual in color, though the wording was brief and partially distorted. By 6:20 p.m., all contact with Flight 19 was lost. The planes had not returned to base. Fuel calculations suggest that by 7 p.m., the aircraft would have begun exhausting reserves. At 7:27 p.m., a PBM Mariner flying boat, designated Training 49, was dispatched on a rescue mission. The Mariner carried a crew of 13. Within 20 minutes of takeoff, the rescue aircraft also disappeared from radar and radio communication. At 7:50 p.m., a tanker vessel operating in the Atlantic reported observing a mid-air explosion and a spreading slick of aviation fuel. The coordinates matched the approximate flight path of the PBM Mariner. The Mariner aircraft model was known for fuel vapor accumulation issues, and Navy maintenance reports prior to the incident had recorded previous explosions. However, no confirmed wreckage from the rescue plane was recovered. Search operations began immediately and continued for 5 days. Hundreds of aircraft and boats combed over 250,000 square miles of ocean. No debris from Flight 19 was conclusively identified. No life rafts were found. No oil slicks were definitively linked to the missing Avengers. The search was officially suspended on December 10, 1945. A Navy Board of Investigation reviewed maintenance logs, weather records, radio transcripts, and pilot histories. The original report attributed the loss to navigational error by the flight leader. Lieutenant Taylor had prior experience, but was unfamiliar with the exact geography of the training area. If he misidentified the Florida Keys while already east of the peninsula, his corrective headings would have carried the squadron farther into open ocean until fuel exhaustion. The report also noted that the Avenger aircraft were capable of floating for a short period after ditching, but rough seas could cause rapid submersion. Depth charts of the Atlantic floor in that region show steep drop-offs into deep water, complicating recovery efforts. In subsequent decades, the disappearance of Flight 19 became associated with broader maritime legends tied to the region often called the Bermuda Triangle. Books and television programs amplified elements of the case, suggesting electromagnetic anomalies or unexplained atmospheric phenomena. However, official Navy documentation does not endorse any such conclusions. Declassified files confirm only what was recorded at the time. Malfunctioning or misread compasses, worsening weather, fading radio communication, and eventual fuel exhaustion. No physical evidence recovered from the ocean floor has conclusively been matched to any of the 5 training aircraft. Despite modern sonar mapping of large portions of the Atlantic seabed, definitive wreckage identification remains incomplete. The disappearance of the rescue mariner added a second unresolved element. While the tanker's explosion sighting likely explains its loss, no debris field large enough to confirm identification was documented in official archives. Today, the case remains one of the most studied aviation disappearances in American naval history. Archival photographs show 5 young crews standing beside their Avengers hours before departure. Flight logs record routine training objectives. Weather summaries describe manageable conditions that shifted late in the afternoon. There are no confirmed distress calls detailing a final descent. There is no verified crash site. The ocean floor in parts of the region exceeds 15,000 feet in depth. The official conclusion lists the cause as unknown. The documents record confusion, deteriorating weather, lost bearings, and silence. The aircraft departed at 2:10 p.m. They never returned.